Manchester United very much in the news right now. Mainoo, Garnacho, Rashford, are they all going to be part of the Nobody Wants Me club? How shiftable might they be for Manchester United? Why are we even talking like this? I'll tell you why. Because there was a suggestion, and certainly Stefan Borsen, FFP expert on this very show yesterday, suggested it, that Manchester United might be one of a few clubs who aren't exactly in the healthiest of positions going forward regarding PSR.
There are teams in the middle who are going through a transitional phase, if you like. The Aston Villas, the Newcastles. We saw, of course, Nottingham Forest last season. Everton, who want to, get back into the upper echelons of the division. Those teams are struggling much more with PSR restrictions. And then, of course, you've got United and Manchester United, and they have very, very severe restrictions on PSR, especially given what's happened over the last few months with the change of manager and the other costs that have hit their profit and loss. So it's a mixed bag. I mean, there are teams who can do deals, but there's not many of them.
That was Stefan Borsen with Simon and myself yesterday. So, Simon, following on from that, profit and sustainability rules, is this a crutch in some ways for Ruben Amorim to rebuild? Or is it a perfect excuse to enforce out with the old and in with the new?
Why do you characterise the question as is it a crutch? Because it would be a disadvantage if he's going to be caught within the confines of an inability to be able to buy his way out of the problems that he's got. Man United have atypically in the past been a big spender. They've spent more money than most football clubs. The criticism has been, obviously, they haven't spent it wisely.
I agree.
If
but
he can't
he's looking
change
to
it,
shift Rashford.
So,
there you go, Ruben. If he's looking to shift Garnacho,
well, I don't think he's.
I
don't think he's looking to shift Rashford for a PSR reason. I think he's looking to shift Rashford because Rashford has made it almost impossible now.
Yeah, but this will help him do that.
Well, it'll provide him. Well, will it? Because ultimately, people aren't going to take Marcus Rashford and do it as a favour to Manchester United. Manchester United, they've got a problem with Rashford. They've got a £300,000 a week salary, so we're led to believe, and a demand for a transfer fee. So who's going to pick up the salary and who's going to pick up a transfer fee? That's the challenge that Man United have. And people are talking, Alex Cook will no doubt allude to it when he comes on, about loan deals being a prerequisite opportunity. And that loan deal didn't work out very well when Martial went somewhere else. And I think Martial and Rashford are two different animals. Yeah. So I think that's probably an unfair comparison, but I understand why it's been made that way. Yeah. So I think it's a challenge for United. I don't know what Stefan Borsen is looking at. I know that United's financial results aren't great in terms of recent terms, but I also know they had a hell of a lot of allowable adjustments that they put in there. So I don't know how far behind the eight ball they are in terms of not being able to spend anything, because the only way this guy must have taken this job. Because this is the one thing that we never price into our thinking, that there must be some concerted thinking, because he would have known going into this group of players that this group of players wasn't going to get him on a journey where he needed to go. He knew he needed to make changes. So either United are going to become a trading club for a period of time, or they're still going to become a buying club. Now, he must have had an understanding that there's going to be some money to invest. Yeah. Otherwise, he's going to get what he's got and keep on getting what he's got. But
is it not the case, as Charlotte Dunker is saying in the Times this morning, the club's finances are tight. Both players, Mainoo and Garnacho, would represent pure profit when it comes to PSR rules if they were sold.
Of course.
Meaning, if the situation presents itself,
of course,
it's a tricky old decision that has to be made one way or the other.
I mean, the argument was being raised at Chelsea's expense a year ago. The confected outrage about one of their own, Conor Gallagher. I don't hear him anymore. Do you hear any mentions of Conor Gallagher?
No. Good
the
point.
Outrage that was going out the door. Conor Gallagher, one of our own, a player that shouldn't be sold. Now Chelsea have got themselves together. The bottom line is that you don't. Academy players are this idea that academy players are produced simply to go into the first team. Man United made a cottage industry years ago of producing players that came out of their academy, made one or two appearances. All of a sudden, they were a Man United player.
They were the best at it.
And you played a premium tax because once upon a time they'd kicked a ball for 15 minutes in a Man United shirt.
Well, also because they were well educated and well disciplined.
And steeped in good disciplines, yeah. But you saw players like Luke Chadwick and other players that went out and created careers otherwhere else.
Loads of them.
So, I mean, when you look at it, Danny, Mainoo, he's 19. He's got a deal that runs until the summer of 2027. Garnacho under contract until the summer of 2028. And now we're looking at headlines like United open to the Mainoo sale. So the goalposts are shifting on this because of PSR and they need to fall within it.
Well, I think PSR would be the only reason you would even contemplate a Mainoo deal because he's a super talent. He's a really good player. I find it strange that he's... not that strange because he's talented, but linked with Chelsea when they've got Lavia young, Caicedo young, Enzo. Do they need another one? Is he going to?
Well, the fascinating thing is, let's think about it just for a moment. If PSR is going to morph into a squad capping exercise, i.e. a percentage of your turnover, United are not going to have a problem, because United are well within those boundaries anyway. So United as an entity, if they've got a 500, 600 million pound turnover, which I think is what they've currently got, even though they are on the field fundamentally unsuccessful, with exclusion of the FA Cup last season.
Yeah.
If they've got a 600 million pound turnover and they've got 70% of the ability for wages and depreciation, they still can afford a 350 million pound wage bill, which is what they've currently got.
Is that what it is?
Give or take.
So what are you telling me, Simon?
They're not short cash.
Can Ratcliffe put his feet up on the desk and say, "No, let's just be calm here"? If an offer comes in from Mainoo that is close to meeting their valuation,
could it not also be the new manager? Actually, from a footballing point of view, I don't see this, but there's a possibility that he actually doesn't think he might be like, yeah, if you get enough money for any of them, let them go.
Well, of course he will. Yeah. I mean, this idea, I heard it the other day that someone's brief is to come in. It's not the football manager's brief. He's not going to decide who gets sold. He's going to be consulted in the process. He's not an economist. He's going to be told what the club wants to do. So when you get this idea that created, his brief is to trim the wage bill. That's not his brief. No. That's someone else's brief. He has to accept that's what's going to happen. Well, that's the brief he gets.
Danny, you said you'd be surprised if they were to part company with Mainoo because of his ability. I don't think you're saying the same about Garnacho, or are you?
I like Garnacho. I think he potentially, with the right manager and the right guidance and the right people around him, could be a really good player. But I tend to go along a little bit with Simon in that he's already shown a little bit of ill discipline and above his station, which can be tedious for a new manager, and he might just think, I haven't got time to waste. I don't know. I wouldn't be as shocked if Garnacho left. You'd have to pay the right amount for him, don't get me wrong, because he is a talent.
Yeah.
And I like the way
he plays. Do you think
there'll
be a queue of clubs for him?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, okay. because what you find with young players, Simon, is I think there's a lot of coaches out there, or a lot of clubs out there who think, we'll mould him. He's got time.
Simon, break down for me, if you will, how this would work. You're not chairman of the Marcus Rashford fan club, are you? Really.
I'm not chairman of it, but I'm also not a huge critic of his. I think some of the things he says and does. I think I'm a critic of the way that he's been positioned as a world-class player. I criticise that.
So, say United are of a mind at the moment that, we're quite happy to see Marcus finish the season here in January with us, and we'll see him on loan in a different shirt, because both AC Milan and Borussia Dortmund have shown an interest in taking him on loan this month. Yep. But wages remain an obstacle. Yep. How do United get around that so that wages don't remain an obstacle?
Well, it depends
Pay more.
They take a view on it. They take a view on what they think they're saving. So if Rashford is not part of the setup, the manager's made his decision for whatever reason that he doesn't feel that he's part of the framework, so he's going to become marginalised anyway. So you've got a £320,000 a week wage cost. You've got 6 months or 5 months of the season left to go. So you've got something like 1.4 million a month. So you can halve it and say, I'll be prepared to carry 160,000 of that if that's what his wages are. You carry the other 160,000. How important is 8 million to Manchester United in the great scheme of things? Some would say, in their frugal attempt to be able to cut costs. Well, if they were cutting costs, they wouldn't have spent £150 million on transfer fees in the summer. But what they're doing is streamlining and trying to make things more effective and increase revenues. And I know that goes into the season ticket pricing and the resistance towards that. But the view is, if whatever you say, whatever you get for Rashford in terms of wages is £1 less you have to pay. So the object of the aim is, how much can I rinse out of somebody if I'm going to put him out on loan, as a view to save some money, maybe free up some budget to be able to bring someone else in that I might want to bring in, or put him in the window. You don't need to put Marcus Rashford in the window. People know what Marcus Rashford is. Someone wants to buy him or they don't want to buy him, and the economics. If you say to someone, I'll let you have Marcus Rashford for free, people will take him. If you say, I want Marcus Rashford for 75 million quid and you take his wages, the people won't take him. So it becomes that old Winston Churchill thing, doesn't it? We know what we're arguing about. It's about, you know what you are. We're just debating what the price is. So the bottom line is, it comes down to that sentiment. And United have got themselves into a difficult position, because who is going to want to pay, besides a Gulf State football club, £300,000 a week for Marcus Rashford? Maybe you can put Nasser's arm up behind his back, but I don't think so. No. I think PSG have moved on a little bit from that.
No, United are going to have to take a hit on it.
Because the player isn't going to. I mean, the other way to dress it up is say to the player, as Danny would appreciate, what have you got left on your United contract? OK, we'll give you a 4-year deal and we'll stretch the contract longer. We'll give you more money over 4 years. and that reduces the upfront costs of you being £300,000 a week. We'll reduce you to £200,000 a week. We'll give you 4 years or something of that nature.
Right.
But I think the player would be entranced in his position.
But do you think, Simon, Rashford going on loan, maybe to Milan, maybe to Dortmund, is doable in this window?
Yeah, of course it is. Anything's doable. It depends about how keen United are to have Rashford out of the building and how desperate they are for whatever someone's prepared to pay them.
Yeah, it shows the rules don't just protect those in the cartel, doesn't it? Or does it?
Well,
United have got to abide by them. Everybody's got to abide by them.
With respect, United have spent like drunken sailors on transfers. Whether they like the Glazers' contribution and how much money they've taken out of it. I was listening to an interview yesterday, and it's maybe quite unpopular, where Paul Scholes was talking on the overlap, saying about season ticket prices and prices. Well, maybe if players weren't getting paid so much bleeding money, and maybe if they were worth a little bit more on the field and United were achieving more things and winning more things, then maybe season ticket prices wouldn't go up. The bottom line is that everybody in the end, by this ridiculous governance that's in place, that is fixing nothing for nobody. What they've introduced is a set of governance that's fixing nothing. It doesn't help Reading. It doesn't help Bury. It doesn't help any of these football clubs that collapse under the weight of the challenges. The only thing that will help them is distribution.
If the clubs paid the players less, that wouldn't necessarily help ticket pricing.
But you'd have an argument with the owners. If the owners suddenly whacked up prices to be able to profit more themselves rather than meet the burgeoning cost of an industry, then the fans would have a stronger argument with the ownership model to say, hang on a second, you're not visiting that revenue back into the football team, you're visiting it back into your own pockets. Right now, it's universally accepted that between 80 and 90% of all revenue that goes into a football club goes straight out to the players and their agents. And that's what it is. And it's there's no change in that. Even Stefan Borson, at his most obtuse, accepted yesterday that there's no suppression of player wages.
Morning, Stefan.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.